So this year, my action research project was about restorative practices. This began last spring when I mentioned it to my principal, and the idea resonated with him, and it ended up turning into a training in our district with a couple hundred educators from around the state and about 10 of our staff. We were trained in the principles of restorative practices for a week and developed a plan for how we would implement it at our school. After the training, we met monthly to develop ideas, presentations, and professional development that we could share with the staff. We decided that to begin, we would focus on effective language and circles. So over the course of the school year, we presented 3 professional development sessions on these topics. We also had a smaller SIP group that completed a book study over the basic principles of restorative practices, and we met 3 times to further discuss those concepts and ideas. As a team, we conducted restorative circles between students who had been involved in conflicts with each other, and also between staff and students when there had been a conflict between them. We plan to continue with the implementation process by continuing to provide PD for the entire staff, as well as trying to train more staff members who've indicated interest, similarly to how we were trained last summer. There have been so many benefits to this experience, but one of the most important benefits is learning to stretch my comfort zone and realizing that it won't actually break. The first way that this happened was in leadership. One of the first classes we took in the program was about teacher leadership, and I was very uncomfortable with the whole idea. I don't like being in the spotlight or being the center of attention, and I've always had a hard time being confident enough in what I was saying to be comfortable sharing it with my peers. This year, I've had to present several times to our staff about RP, and I also co-led the book study with the SIP group and was responsible for the content that was presented during those sessions as well. If nothing else, this experience has pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me realize that I do have things to offer, and I should not always sit quietly in the shadows when I have something important to say. It's made me more comfortable sharing ideas with my peers and having confidence in my abilities. I plan to continue to help lead this initiative in any way I can, and I'm excited at the opportunities that I may get in the future to share this knowledge with others. Another benefit is just the amount of knowledge that I've gained in so many areas that will make me a better teacher. I learned about many academic and behavioral interventions as well as new technology available to not only make content more accessible for our students, but to prepare them for the world that we now live in, which is so technology-based. I've had many positive experiences and interactions during the 3 years, but learning to take on leadership roles and learning these new tools were the areas that were most impacted. One of the biggest personal impacts this program has had on me is being able to show my kids perseverance. So many times in the last 3 years, I've cried, yelled, had panic attacks, thrown things, and so many times over the last 3 years, my kids have asked me why I don't just quit if it's so hard. The fact that they've asked me that is probably one of the reasons that I couldn't do it. Now I can tell them that just because something is hard doesn't mean you quit. It means you work hard and push through. Showing them how to persevere through something difficult is an important lesson I'm grateful that I was able to show them. I've been frustrated by having to learn new things and often failing and having to do them again, and these were such important lessons for my kids to see. I also think the program has made me realize I'm actually pretty good at some things, and I typically have a hard time acknowledging that. I don't know if any of these things that I've learned that I'm good at, like writing and analyzing data, will do any good in the future, but it's a good feeling to have had them acknowledged by professors over the years. It makes me realize how important it is to notice a person's talents and make sure that they also know that you see those things. I've learned so many interventions from my students that I never even knew existed. I've also learned that I really like to focus on behavior management ideas. My favorite behavior management system that I learned about was a group contingency that I researched in a class, and then I tried it in my classrooms last year. So if you're looking for a good group behavior management tool, look up the 3 jars. There's a video of it on YouTube, and it looks just like this when you search the 3 jars on YouTube. That explains it great, and it's easily adapted for any age level. I used it with high school students from freshmen to juniors, and they all loved it. It made a huge difference in cell phone usage, tardies, work completion, and respectful behavior. I hope to be able to catalog all the interventions that I've learned and tried and then share them with other teachers, especially new teachers, as classroom management is often the biggest hurdle that they face. My career goals have not really changed with this program, as of right now. It was never my intention to change careers after finishing this degree, but I have realized that I really enjoy researching and analyzing data and writing up the results. I also really enjoy implementing behavior strategies and tracking the data from the interventions and seeing the positive results. I also didn't end up hating taking on those leadership roles, and the more I get used to those situations, the more confident I am that I'll get better at presenting and leading different groups. So while I don't see myself in a new job right now, I do see that there's areas that I found that I enjoy and would like to explore any options available that might lend itself to those things. I also see myself taking on more initiative to take on leadership roles in the building, to share what I've learned with others. I'm really anxious to get opportunities to mentor and help new teachers especially. I feel like if I'd had all this information that I have now 15 years ago, I probably wouldn't have as much gray hair as I do now. I did a lot of things wrong, and I would really like the opportunity to help new teachers learn how to avoid those same mistakes. There are some things that I probably need to improve on, but I have accepted the reality that I will always be a procrastinator to some extent. I would like to say it's an area that I'm going to work on and I know I need to get better at, but once you reach a certain age, there's just some things you need to acknowledge that that's just the way they are. I may procrastinate, but I have learned that I do get everything done. One thing I would like to improve on is to find more ways to increase academic performance with my students. Because I found behavior so interesting, I focused almost entirely on that aspect. So I would like to continue to research on my own and learn more about how to improve academic outcomes, now that I know so many ways to help them behave so that they're better able to learn. Towards the end, I also found myself being pretty negative about a lot of things, so I guess I could work on doing better about staying positive no matter what challenges I face. Overall, I have to say that I am glad it's over, and my suggestions for anyone in the future: do not attempt to do this when you're old and you have kids and activities. Get it done before you have kids, especially if you're going to take 2 research classes in the summer.